So they started 3-6 last year. They were 7-1 after the bye. The only loss after the bye was that rainy day in Baltimore when they took the Ravens to overtime.
Ravens couldn't stop them.
No, Rams coulda, shoulda, woulda won that game.
Baltimore needed to convert a 3rd and 17 at the 21-yard line. Touchdown pass to Flowers to get that to overtime.
Yep, and at the break or at the bye last year, some of Stafford's numbers were either borderline, the worst of his career, or the worst since his rookie season. And they came back. McVay adjusted during the bye week. They tinkered. They kind of made it a little bit easier with the passing game, shorter passes, and the team took off at that point. They had a halftime lead in only 2 out of their first 9 games. When he made the adjustments during the bye week, they came out and had the lead at half in 6 of the final 8. So and by the way, they were good in that playoff loss to the Lions.
Should have won the game.
He could have won the game.
This is one of the best teams in football, how they closed. No one wanted to see these guys in the playoffs. And how dangerous and potent that offense was with the emergence of Puka Nacua and then Williams. And this is getting lost as well. The run that they were on offensively, and then the numbers that Williams and Puka were putting up every week. Williams had 100 yards going back 5 of the last 7 games, and then what Puka was doing every week. In 5 games, he had more than 150 yards receiving. Mm-hmm. And with Stafford dialed in. And I talked to a lot of guys I respect and a lot of sharp guys who are pro sports bettors and also are big with the win totals. They all loved the Rams under and pointed to the defense.
That number moved, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. There were so many people down on the Rams, and they go out and they win 10 games and almost should have won a playoff game as well. But you nailed it. 7-1 after the bye. Should have beat Baltimore, and they were just awesome. And a great coaching job by McVay. And the big knock was going to be, well, the defense is going to stink in his roster. And it wasn't the case at all. It wasn't the case. And plus 330 to win the division and even money to make the playoffs now this upcoming year.
So here's my biggest question with the team, because the offense, to me, is going to be A-OK. With McVay, Stafford was awesome down the stretch. They have the weapons for sure. It's elite receivers we're talking about. The defensive unit was the cheapest in the NFL last year. The cheapest with Aaron Donald. They completely overachieved. Now, this team has done a great job at drafting and they had to do that, right? Because they've had no depth. And they've had no first-round picks. They were top-heavy, paid all their stars that much money to go for a Super Bowl win, which they achieved. And so they kind of had to hit draft picks out of the park. Good for them. They did it defensively, certainly at the very top of the list. What's that going to look like this year, first one, with Aaron Donald removed from the starting lineup? Like, how big of an impact overall did he have in some of those rookies last year?
Yeah.
Now, they went out and addressed it again this offseason and with the draft again. So, in theory, they're going to be in their second year, those guys, and the rookies will be able to benefit from those players making an improvement as well.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is they made the playoffs also because they swept Seattle. And they shocked a lot of people. Seattle was a popular play week 1 in Survivor. And the Rams went in there and hammered them. They also were down a couple scores and beat them at home later in the season, which was big. But can you improve defensively? But the schedule's a bear as well, especially to start. I mean, you get the rematch of the playoff game right off the bat. So you see Goff, you see Murray, you see the 49ers, and again, Shanahan's own them. Then you see the new look and watch out for the Bears. And you see look at this. Right? And I don't want my bye that early.
No, neither do I.
Their bye's week 5, week 6. I don't want that either. Then it's Tua. Then it's the Seahawks again. Eagles. I mean, this is really tough here for them. So even though they're a good team and how good this offense is, and you late last year you got Kupp back too. I could see anything. I could see third place. Watch out for Seattle. I could see the schedule's too difficult, or as you pointed out yesterday, and our guest John Lund, maybe there's some injuries again. Did the uncertainty with Ayuk? Maybe he's frustrated. Even like they bring him back and they don't give him what he wants, and the 49ers drop down to second place. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams win the division, or they could go 8-9 and miss out because of this schedule.
Sure. Here's my approach to the Rams this year. Due to the first 5 games of the year, I'm not going to bet them over 8.5 right now, especially when they're a very popular pick. Because this team, honestly, a good bet might be the last winless team at a nice, juicy price because of the schedule to begin. It's very difficult early, and then it eases up after that. I think at the bye week is when I would like to come in and then bet the adjusted win total. Because at Lions, at Cardinals to begin, difficult. And then after that, obviously, with the Niners, at the Bears, and then the Packers, we are talking about 5. Well, Cardinals, I'm not going to say are a really good team. That's not accurate. However, I think they're going to be pesky. I think they're going to be dangerous this year. And the other teams, I don't think the Bears are a playoff team. Some people do. You're talking about 3 playoff teams to begin from last year and that have super high hopes coming into this season again. Mm-hmm. So that would be my approach with the team. I'm also a little bit afraid about this. You mentioned Williams. He was terrific last season. The Rams were second in EPA per rush with him behind Stafford and second in success rate running the football. That was against the number 1 easiest schedule of run defenses the entire year. This year, it's not going to be that easy. The run defenses that they have to play on the schedule, they're about middle of the pack. So they go from the easiest schedule of run defenses to a schedule that's about middle of the pack, meaning that it should only be more difficult for him to run the football. And keep in mind, he only played 12 games last year anyway. He was banged up. Part of the reason why I think the team went out and drafted Blake Corum out of Michigan.
Yeah, I thought they had a good draft.
So do I.
Yep. But it was such a great division. San Francisco 12-5, Rams 10-7, and Seattle 9-8. The thing that did Seattle in was 2-4 in the division. Some cool props at DraftKings. Will Puka have 200 yards in a game? Yes, plus 425. Kupp is 8-1. Will Williams have 200 yards rushing in a game? 5-1. Will Puka have 15 touchdowns? 20-1.
Wow.
Will Stafford throw for 500 yards in a game? 10-1. I can see that.
I know that they're offering like a lot of individual receivers to have 200 yards, in one game this year.
Yeah, it's a fun market. Same thing for rushing, yeah.
Yeah, Puka is intriguing because he will have a game this year where he probably has 18, 19 targets in that game.
Yeah.
Right? I noticed that they have like a big number up on Jamar Chase to have 200 yards this year. That to me is intriguing. I think it was plus 375 when I looked last. Something like that, if you go down and look at the list of individual receivers that you can bet to have that many yards, kind of, okay, you can see it happening.
Yeah, and as I mentioned yesterday, too, the exacta. San Francisco, Rams, Seattle, Arizona pays 5-1. San Francisco, Seattle, Rams, Arizona pays 6-1. And I am with you as well. I thought Gannon did a good job last year, and we'll get to him later in the week. But they were in a lot, even with Dobbs, they were in a lot of those games, especially at home. And then once they got Murray back, forget about it. They go into Pittsburgh and win.
Sure.
And they gave a lot of teams some issues.
It's a pretty good division overall. I mean, Cardinals were supposed to be an absolute stink bomb last year. They were until Murray came back, like you just said. And I'm kind of high on Seattle this year. I'm not going to go nuts. I'm not betting them to win their division. I'm not betting them to win the NFC or anything like that. But I can see Seattle. There's a path here, I think, with the new head coach where the defense is really improved.
It's got to be better. It was terrible last year.
It has to be, right?
Couldn't stop Mason Rudolph last year at home.
And they have talent.
Yeah.
They have talent on that side of the ball. They address it in the draft as well. I think he'll do some pretty good things on that side of the ball. But the biggest thing, obviously, is going to be Geno, right? Because they have the talent on offense.
Yep.
It's just, can Geno ever bottle up what he did 2 years ago?
Yep.
Not so sure. But, again, to me, it's weight. And I think you can... Well, it depends on how it goes for the 49ers early, especially in week 1 against the Jets. But let's just assume for a second the Rams start 0-1, and then the Cardinals game won't be easy, but they win that. Even if they're like 2-3 at the break, you can probably find some better numbers than you can right now on this team, especially now that the summer is almost over with, and these numbers have kind of been beaten up a little bit here over the last couple of months. Hope for them to struggle out of the gates a little bit. Do we have high expectations on both teams in LA this year?
Yeah.
Really?
I know. But
okay.
That's, well, the Mad Russian loves him if that can go over, too.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. He's a hell of a...
Professional sports bettor.
Yeah.
Loves the Rams.
Yeah. That was surprising based on that schedule's brutal, but can they get to 9 wins?
Yeah.